My brother had cancer, my mother had cancer, my father had cancer. My family lived on an Air Force base. Most dangerous sort of areas for PFAS are very highly industrial areas, as well as airports and military bases.
In medical school, we all have to learn about high blood pressure, cholesterol, heart disease. The thinking now is shifting away from just drugs for certain symptoms, and it's thinking deeper into what's in our lifestyle that might be making us at increased risk for these diseases, for these health issues.
When we found out about PFAS, I thought it was the worst possible thing in the world. But in some ways, it also gives us a way to quantify clean makeup where we never had that before.
Skin is the largest organ on our body. Everything that our skin touches is in play.
You Are Beautiful, podcast with Jae Kim, ND.
Welcome to the You Are Beautiful podcast with Jae Kim, MD. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Kim, a facial plastic surgeon, and I'm on a mission to make the world a more beautiful place, starting with you. There are 3 undeniable truths that you must embrace to become the most beautiful version of yourself. The first is that you are beautiful. The second is that you are unique. And the third is that you are worth it. Let's get to it. Today, I have a very wonderful guest hailing from Vancouver. Her name is JoAnn Fowler, and she is a trailblazing force when it comes to clean beauty and toxic chemicals. You may know her makeup brand called SAPPHO New Paradigm. She has dedicated her entire life to pioneering revolutionary approaches to clean beauty, to challenge conventional boundaries, and to advocate for a paradigm shift that embraces transparency in our beauty products. So without further ado, welcome to the show, JoAnn. It's a wonderful pleasure to have you.
Thanks very much, Shay. Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. So this is the question I start with a lot of my guests. How do you impact the world and make it a more beautiful place?
Well, I think that I'm not sure that I impact the world yet, but my mission is to impact the world by shining a light on the toxic chemicals that are in our personal care items that cause us illness and dis-ease, and to hopefully affect some sort of paradigm change in how we produce our foundations and our makeup and our personal care items.
Now, take us back to when this light bulb clicked and what inspired you to make this career change? Because you were in with some very cool people on some very cool movie and TV sets, right?
Yeah, I did. I was, interestingly enough, I started my career in life as a child care counselor. So I worked with kids for almost 10 years before I became a makeup artist. And then I worked in film for almost 30 years. So, I worked on some nice projects and, did some really exciting things. It was very creative. It's a tough job, 16 hours a day. And it was really exciting and I really loved it. However, there's a lot of down parts to it. And mostly that has to do with, above the line of producers.
Okay.
The actual work is great and the crews are great. And, I was like, I had a wonderful, wonderful career. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a young actress at the time, Mia Kirshner, that was sitting in my chair. And mm-hmm. I had just purchased a whole lot of makeup for her for the new season of The L Word. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm not wearing any more parabens in any of my makeup, JoAnn." Mm. And I said, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." And, she explained to me that she was living in Europe and they had banned over 1,300 chemicals from the EU, many that were toxic in makeup. And she was quite shocked that I didn't know about this. And, my mom had just died of cancer. In fact, my whole family has cancer, has died of cancer, has cancer, except me.
I'm sorry about that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we'll get around to that because I think really PFAS has a role to play in all of this. But she told me about this. And so I phoned my girlfriend, Norma Patton-Low, and she's Halle Berry's makeup artist. And I said, she's from England, so she knew a lot about botanicals and stuff like that. She had a lot more information about organics that I didn't have at that time. So I called her and I said, Norma, what do you know about this? Do you know about these parabens? And she said, no, not really, but I have a book that I just got called Not Just a Pretty Face. And would you like to borrow it? And I went over there immediately. And the first paragraph changed my life. And so the first paragraph was about how they found hundreds and hundreds of chemicals in the bloodstream. And these were like neurotoxins, they were endocrine disruptors, even PCBs from the 1970s.
Yeah.
And the test subjects were newborn babies, still in the hospital across the United States in 2004.
Wow.
That was the first paragraph. And it really set me on my butt. And I have dog-eared that book many times. I've read it so many times. But, it talked about, in the 2000s, early 2000s, they were doing tests on kids like in the southern states, black kids that were using hair pomades and stuff like that. And they were getting toddlers that were growing breasts. And we're talking about boys. We're not talking about girl toddlers.
Right.
And they took them off the pomades and the breasts went away. And, we've had this information. I've had this information since like 2008. It's been out there since before that. And today I could walk down the street and somebody would go, oh, you're kidding. I didn't know that about makeup, and I've been standing on rooftops as much as I can, but I'm one person. And unfortunately, the clean beauty market has just been usurped by venture capitalists and was very early in the day.
I see.
And you can't. And now with PFAS, it's a whole new game. It's a whole new game. So, which is a good thing, because we can test for it, the presence of these things, and that's going to change the landscape a little bit about claims, and maybe get people to take things a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, I think there are very important scientific or clinical findings that we hear of in Europe, but they don't come to North America till quite a bit later. And in your experience, where do you feel that delay is? Either in reluctance to accept, or is it some other issue?
It's all financial. It's all the cosmetic associations and all that kind of stuff. They're all run by the large companies, and it's the large companies and it's associations that inform the FDA. It's like we've given the keys to the. You can't expect capitalism to take care of the people before they take care of their shareholders. I mean, it's just the way it is, and I think it's our system is really it's unbridled, and we I guess I don't know how you put a cap to it, but that's the impetus for the issues that we have, and we have tens of thousands of chemicals that go out, and only probably about a tenth of them are actually tested before they go out the door. Even with the new MOCRA rules and stuff. I mean, clean beauty was imagined to be beyond governmental rules and regulations, and that's how I see it. I see clean beauty was imagined to save lives. It was to be disruptive, and now it's mainstream. And so I think, again, like we're just going to be on our own. We're breaking up with clean beauty. We're just going to be PFAS tested. We're going to be organic fluorine tested because I think that's the way to go. And I think that's what we have to push for. Mm-hmm. We have to push for more labs being able to develop this kind of testing that we need. Right now with these forever chemicals, you can only test for, most labs only test for like 60 to 90 of them. Mm-hmm. I think there are 250 that have been studied, and then there's maybe 1,500 that have been identified. But there are 15,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And they all have the same basic structure, which is a chain of various numbers of carbon molecules with an organic fluorine molecule. And it is that organic fluorine molecule that we test for the presence of, because it will tell us if there's an organic fluorine molecule there, there's a PFAS there, because that's the only time you ever find them.
F is for fluoro.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we test for. And we don't necessarily, because we want to know, like, of the 15,000, what's the percentage? Mm-hmm. Which is way better than saying, oh, well, we're PFAS-free, but you've only tested for 90 of them.
Right.
Right. So it's trying to get the right information out and actually trying to afford to do the right testing. And that's the other thing. I mean, we're tiny. I mean, we're just like 1.5 people in my company. I mean, we've gone without paychecks to get things tested. And it's not really sustainable that way. So, we're trying to work with universities and getting grants and stuff like that, because really and truly, it's not going to, it's going to take somebody that's like me, that's 70 years old, that doesn't need to buy a yacht. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have those aspirations. I have no wish to, I don't have anything to prove in that way.
Sure.
I built everything that I own in my life, and I got it all taken away by a venture capitalist. So I don't have anything to lose anymore.
Yeah. To our viewing audience and listening audience, JoAnn is in this not for personal financial gain, really. It's her passion and her mission to raise awareness about what is toxic in our personal care, especially. But also, you said before we pressed record that it's also in our food and clothing. Is that right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Those are actually the first two ways that we get these PFAS chemicals into our body, is through food and through our clothing and through our personal care items in that order. Yeah.
I mean, there are many other pieces of content out there on YouTube and other podcasts alluding to our cookware, particularly nonstick, and then also in our clothing when it comes to Gore-Tex or Teflon and other fabrics. And so those, and in addition to the products that we apply to our skin. There's more content out there now, and I do think that, you're part of the movement to help raise awareness to this fact and to be more mindful about what we consume. So I applaud your Herculean efforts.
Well, it is fascinating, and I think having a purpose in life is like super important. When I was in my 20s, my brother had cancer, my mother had cancer, my father had cancer, and now my sister she's very ill with leukemia.
Oh, wow.
So, when in my 20s, I actually phoned the Cancer Institute, and I said, hey, everyone in my family, has cancer except me, touch wood. And, could I be of any use to you in any kind of studies or anything? And they said no. So I sort of gave it up. But, learning about PFAS, I look at my family, and my family lived on an Air Force base for 10 years before I was born. And then when I was born, they moved.
Okay.
So I look at that and I go, oh, that's really interesting. Every one of them has had cancer, and all different kinds of cancers, and nothing that has been hereditary. Right? So I go, oh, okay, maybe that's my answer that I was looking for in my 20s. PFAS. They live with it. They live, the most dangerous sort of areas for PFAS are very highly industrial areas, as well as, airports and military bases.
I see.
Right. So that's where the highest levels are. There's also a movie called Dark Waters that I suggest that people watch. It's about Teflon,
Okay.
but it's pretty interesting. Yeah. And also when we think about these PFAS, they are also very, very, they're found in packaging, right? And they're particularly plastics are very, very prone to PFAS. So we have a refillable mascara.
Your mascara is very popular, by the way, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and the thing is, it's refillable. So, but we had this tested for PFAS and for organic fluorine to 10 parts per million, which is the smallest you can test for materials and foundation and formulas. But then we had this tested also, and this 3 inches or whatever cost us 8 months. We had to make 4 of them to find one piece of plastic that we could find that was tested at 10 parts per million.
Or less.
Because the PFAS will leach into your formula. And your eyes and your lips are really the 2 sort of most vulnerable areas of your face to take in the chemicals, right?
Got it.
So we're trying to test everything inside and out. We're actually going to try and get away from as much plastic as absolutely possible. All our foundations, everything is already in glass, which is one of the reasons why we've been testing non-detect for all our formulas, I think, is because we haven't gone into plastic. There's also a website called mamavation.com, like motivation, but mama.
Okay.
And she is the whistleblower, and she is the tester. So she's testing everything from household goods to children's toys to food. They're really focusing on food right now. And she's in Northern California. And hats off to this young woman. She's a mom of 3, and she's been doing a lot of groundbreaking work.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
For our audience, the mascara is part of your makeup brand called My SAPPHO New Paradigm. Is that correct?
SAPPHO New Paradigm, but the website is mysappho.com.
mysappho.com. Got it. Yeah. Okay. And so if you're looking for PFAS-free, clean, paraben-free, cruelty-free makeup, this is your destination. So we're going to leave the website link in the description below. So definitely go check out mysappho.com, SAPPHO. And what was the inspiration for naming it after Sappho?
Oh, I'm just going to say it. I like to say that bitch has been around for 2,000 years. She was a poet that lived 2,000 years ago. She was one of the very first poets to ever write in first person, which meant, before that it was all about the guys, talking about in third person about how he went and stole Helen, and then they went over, all the battles and all that kind of stuff. And here she came along and she started writing from her heart. She was a lyricist, and she wrote about herself. She was on the spectrum in terms of sexual identity. She was gay, and she was also a mother, and she talked about her loves, and she lived life on her own terms, and that's unapologetically. And there's a quote of hers that says, "Who is beautiful is good, and who is good will soon be beautiful."
I like that.
I do too.
That resonates with kind of the ethos of my business also, is that you are beautiful. And Sappho is one of the historic, perhaps first recorded persons to put that down on paper and to really express that. And of course, back then, there were no female writers,
That's
basically none. And so she's just a force of nature that still rings in the annals of history to this day. So that's pretty awesome. In terms of makeup, do you still have gigs for TV or for movies where you use your clean beauty products?
No, I don't. I'm almost 70. I'm going to be 70 next year. So I haven't been on a set in many, many years. Although my girlfriend Norma is still working with Hallie. Actually, Norma just finished a pilot, and I can't even tell you what it is because I'm not allowed to. But it wasn't
We'll look
with
forward
Hallie.
to it.
It was with somebody else. But she, different makeup artists use my products on different actors, and different actors use them. So they go out to sets quite often in Vancouver. And Montreal, actually. There's a couple of makeup artists in Montreal that use the line, and Toronto that use it quite significantly. However, it is not really a film, line. When you're working in television or film now with the HD in particular, and you have a very certain amount of time to get somebody ready, and you're really up against it. Most makeup artists will go to a silicone heavy makeup.
Okay.
And they'll just do it because it's going to save them time, and it's going to, and because the situation again is, you have to get as much done in the shortest amount of time for the cheapest amount of money. And what that means is that you're then going to throw stuff on somebody's face that's not going to take as much work as it does if it's not full of silicone, right? So there's always that thing. So we sort of really try to just talk to women, like women every day that can go out, that don't have to be, when you're in film and you're on that camera and that camera is that close and you're seeing every pore, the pressure to be perfect is formidable.
Sure.
And we don't go for that.
Fair enough.
We want you to look your best, your skin to look its best, not look like somebody else's skin. Right. That's sort of where we come from. So our products but they're all designed for individuals, like they're named after individuals, like Norma is Norma's color, and Pam was named after Pam Grier. It was Pam Grier's color. Jennifer Beals, Jennifer, and they were some of the actresses that I was working with on during the time that I was developing. But I haven't been on a set in a long time. I miss the camaraderie. I still have lots of friends, and we do photo shoots and stuff like that. And so we have a lot of fun with that. So there's a lot of things I miss in film. I miss the crews. I miss the trailers. I miss the actors. I miss the fun that you have. A lot of years, a lot of laughs. I just put up we just put it up on TikTok, but we put up a story about Final Destination 3 and how we were brought in at the last second for the brain prosthetic, which did not exist. And so we had to go out. I got my assistant to go and get all these groceries. And we built like the noodles and stuff. We built the whole head trough. And we laughed. So we were laughing the whole time. We were just laughing and laughing and laughing. And the effects department liked it so much that they had us make it again.
Oh, wow.
For another scene later on. But, it's just stuff like that where it's just so silly that you're just, and you're getting paid for it. You're just laughing. And, there's a lot of good moments like that.
When I think of long hours and tough times and good camaraderie, I think of our medical training.
I was going to say,
There are some parallels there, I will say. And there are some events or stories that you just never forget. And whenever you meet up with those friends who were involved in that event or that story, you can pick up right where you left off as if it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And so that camaraderie is...
Punches together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of being in the trenches, you advocate for something that... Let's just say there's a lot of opposition against you and your movement because of people who want profits for themselves, for their shareholders. How do you get back on that soapbox every day, and how do you portray your message to the world that this is very, very important in terms of beauty, but also of health in general?
I don't really know how to answer that question because basically I don't care what anybody else thinks. So, I mean, like I don't need to make it. I don't need to buy a yacht. Do I want to bring the sales up to a certain amount? Would I like to, be able to buy back an apartment and just be safe in my old age? Absolutely. I'm not against making money. But I have no need to be driven to accept less than I want to accept in order to prove anything. I've already done that. I've got my Emmy nomination. I've done a lot of. I've accomplished a lot of things in my life, and this is really important because it's about telling the truth. So that's what it's about for me. I mean, I'm really is about telling the truth. I'm so sick of business. I thought things were bad enough in film. And, you work in, Hollywood, it's, pretty bad. I had no idea that business was as crooked and as brutal and as duplicitous as it is, and how industry lies so much. I mean, just watch Dark Waters, and it's still happening. People are still saying, "Oh, we have a different kind of Teflon now," and well, there's 15,000 PFAS, but some of them are safe. Like, we don't know, some of them could be safe. Like, well, so far none of them are safe. So why are we going to just assume the rest of the 15,000 that they're, and like how long are we going to wait? It's not hard, really. And also, I do a lot of creative stuff. So this weekend, I did like a campaign for January where I worked with AI and Midjourney, and I was creating 1950s like images for a campaign that we're doing. And so I do a lot of creative stuff. I do most of the social media. We do a lot of filming here. You can see all my lights and stuff. We do a lot of makeovers here. We film, it's always creative. There's something always going on. So, I guess I get tired, but, and also what am I going to do? I can't go back to film. Like when I lost everything when I was 60, it wasn't a time for me to go back to film. I can't go stand there for 16 hours a day anymore. I can't even see that well after working on computers for so long. So, so what else? This is what I know. And, so I just do the best with what I know, I guess.
I think that's a huge call for transparency in what we do. And compared to the EU and their transparency with makeup products, self-care products, also food, their standard is really leaps and bounds over what we have in the US, and I presume in Canada too.
It's still not perfect either, and Teflon is still over there trying to sway things. The interesting thing is that the chemicals that were banned in makeup from those 1800s, that was like kind of a mistake. Like they didn't mean to do that. Like they slid that underneath something else. When the cosmetic companies found out, even in Europe, they're fit to be tied.
Yeah.
Because the same cosmetic companies that, own the big things, they sell in Canada and United States, and they sell in Europe. And they have two different formulas.
Interesting.
They could have one formula, couldn't they? But they choose to have two. And they choose to have two because the United States doesn't have any regulations. The regulations are.
And I imagine the cost to make the U.S. formula might be cheaper too, or more favorable.
Considerably. Yeah.
I see.
Considerably. And that's what it always comes down to, and that's why I don't believe that industry should be put in charge of itself.
Yeah.
Needs a parent somewhere. We need an adult in the room somewhere,
A disinterested third party, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's too late, but so, my idea is just right now, it's just like I can't care about what anybody else is doing. I can't care what clean beauty is doing. If they can knock themselves out. They have millions of dollars to tell you that they're the best and blah, blah, blah. I don't have that. So, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do and get on podcasts, and we're gonna, just do our little thing and build whatever it is that we can build. And we can't really go viral anyway, because the testing and the processes for PFAS tested stuff, because there's no such thing as PFAS-free, right? Remember, we can only test at parts per million.
Right.
And water is tested at parts per trillion. So, so we can't really make those claims, but, it has to be a process that we come to. And we have to, we have to develop a lot of the proceeds in order to be able to go viral or to be able to build, a really like a large company. So I'm good with being a small company and starting it and getting everything settled and working on what the protocols are, and, and doing it in small batches and learning as much as we can. And then, maybe in 5 years, hopefully somebody, with a lot of clout and money and can see that we've built something and we'll take it over and do something. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? It's just one step in front of the other and see what happens. And when we found out about PFAS, I thought it was the worst possible thing in the world. And it is. But in some ways, it also gives us a way to quantify clean makeup where we never had that before.
Just the idea of cleaner products for our skin is healthy for us, because skin is the largest organ on our body by surface area, by weight. And so everything that our skin touches is in play potentially. And so I appreciate that, to the best of the technology that's currently available, that you're able to test down to less than 10 parts per million. That's right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 parts per million. Now, we can't guarantee that on everything that we make. We're really shooting for 30 parts per million and under, like Momovation. That's sort of the, but so far we're at 10 parts per million and under non-detect. So I'm very happy with that's our foundation, that's our concealers, that's our lip products, and that's our mascara, and our CC cream. So very, very happy about that. I think our brow pomades were about 17 parts per million. So, I mean, there's things like it could be somebody washing a piece of machinery that day. Like there's a certain number under that we're not going to be able to control that for probably at least 20 years. Yeah. But we have to start.
Yeah. I think of an analogy to when we perform surgery. There has to be a certain process to make everything as sterile as we can. And to that degree, there are standards in our cleaning processes and also in our operating room parameters, including circulation. HVAC is a humongous component of keeping our ORs safe. And so I do see a parallel there in terms of quality control, in terms of safety, and those are all things that I'm sure resonate with you.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess, it's just one step in front of the other and see what's going to happen and see what, who drops in. Like, there's always it's really interesting. It's getting kind of fun again. Like, it got kind of awful for a while, but it's getting fun again with people sort of dropping in that are kind of helping things along the way and are really interested, not in the way that is your traditional way, but like with, advice and ideas and, just, yeah, it's kind of great again. It's getting a little bit magical again, and I'm happy about that.
Cool. Yeah. Is there some kind of feedback that comes to mind when a customer or passerby came in recently, or even online? I guess I'm sure there are inquiries of all kinds.
Well, we do get a lot of inquiries about chemicals, and things like, do you have soy? Do you have this? Do you have that? One of the things that I really, that was really important when I first started in 2008 was there was not a week that went by, probably for the first 2 years, where I wouldn't get an email from a woman that had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. I miss that contact at that very meaningful level. But it is that level that keeps me going, I guess. And we still, every now and then, we hear from that person that is struggling and wants to talk or wants to tell us their story. And we call it her story because that's how it came about. Just Not a Pretty Face is it's mostly women, and it's their stories. And the scientists that looked into it, and, and that's why with SAPPHO, it's her story instead of history. I always say, too, we're out there to save those penises. That's what we're about, no holds barred. I'm not going to be quiet anymore. This is really what it's about. It's about life. And we need to protect that. And I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care anymore.
I think there's a freedom with really being single-minded and really passionate about your mission. And it won't speak to everybody.
No.
But it will speak to the right people.
Yes.
And so I applaud you for staying your course since 2008 with this single-minded mission. And I think it is very important for our listeners and our viewers to hear your story.
Thank you. I really appreciate I appreciate people listening, and it's nice to be able to talk. It's nice that there's these podcasts now that that we can actually tell the story, because it's been a while.
Yeah. Some people wonder why I started a podcast. As a doctor, as a surgeon, there's a certain way that we are taught to think throughout our university, through medical school residency, and much of it was about treating the weed rather than the root. And what I mean by that is, in medical school, we all have to learn about high blood pressure, cholesterol, heart disease, these things like that. And we presume that there are certain causative agents or things that are linked with these disease processes. And I don't think I graduated from medical school that long ago. I think it's been 13 years. And yet the thinking now is shifting away from just drugs for certain symptoms. And it's thinking deeper into what's in our lifestyle that might be making us at increased risk for these diseases, for these health issues. And I think that your story, your makeup line is a testament to there needs to be more conversation about this.
And thank you. And I hope that it trickles down into all personal care items, I can only talk about cosmetics because that's what I know about, but, toothpaste and soap and shaving oils and all of them. We have a lot to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. One step at a time. And, I just really believe that people just need to do what they can do and what they can do best. And if that today is just recycling one piece of plastic, then do it, Just do it. Take a step in the right direction. We have to save ourselves. Nobody's going to save us, clearly.
I appreciate your story And one thing as we start to wrap up our conversation, can you talk about another area of your life outside of the makeup line of SAPPHO New Paradigm where you find beauty?
Yeah, it's pretty easy for me to just walk outside. I live in Vancouver, BC.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why I'm here, and that's the mountains, and the ocean, and nature. And I think nature is one um, the one thing in our lives that there's nothing that could ever replace that. So just the ability to just go out and walk and and see the majestic mountains they blow my mind. I'm always there's not a day that goes by that I don't see them that I'm in awe of however our earth is created and what we have in it. So that's a part of me that brings me a great deal of joy. The other thing that brings me a great deal of joy is a beautiful line. It's a piece of art. It's an image. I get great joy out of visual art. So, and my dog, the little dog,
Oh.
Magoo. I don't know where she's old. She's like 14. She's sleeping somewhere now. She's hiding somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I feel like nature is the ultimate palette.
Mm-hmm.
And just the vibrant colors, landscapes. There's something about it that's really timeless. Mm-hmm. And I purposely use the word palette because it would resonate with a makeup artist like you.
Absolutely. and we use our nature as our palette. Like all our colors are based in Canadian, leaves or areas like tuk blue, and everything that we've chosen to signify has a base in something that's Canadian.
Yes.
It could also be American. It could also be anywhere else in the world, but it just happens to be this orange is from PEI. This is the color of PEI sand, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's what we've done in our choosing all our colors too. They all all our boxes, everything comes from nature. We come from we are nature. Like that's just it. And that's the other thing. And we can't frack and not expect, like nature not to like come back.
Right. For there not to be repercussions.
Again, it's that whole idea of like, you don't get away with anything. And it's very frustrating because so much of those decisions are made at such a level that we can't affect. Or I feel like we can't affect at this point,
In terms of your role in what you do, it's very much boots on the ground. And like you said, a lot of the forces that are in play are 30,000 feet above. So we have to find that connection somehow.
Yeah. And, maybe we just build the army comes slowly, I think it's actually going to come faster. I think the kids are fed up. They see the lies. You just have to go on TikTok for 2 seconds and you can see who's lying and who's, everybody's lying, most of them, and so, but I mean, at least now, like there's been this huge illumination that didn't happen when I didn't know. Like there's so many things that I was an educated person, but now I'm realizing that I just had no idea. I was fed a bunch of stuff and I took it all and I believed it, and not true. And it started with makeup, it started with as simple as makeup. And you think, yeah, they don't care because it's like, cosmetics isn't even on a list when you look at like industries when you're filling out forms. It's not even on the list. And you go, well, so they've managed to like just sort of keep it over here, and they could just like, and then they can mess with it as much as they want because, well, it's just like woman stuff. Like it's It's like shampoo, like it's like stuff, like who cares? It's like to make you look good. Like it's frivolous, right? And then yet it is like one of the industries that creates the most pollution in our world. The most plastics, the most, most garbage. And now when that plastic gets thrown into the garbage, we now know it's like leaching PFAS for 10 years. And watch dark waters, see what happens when those chemicals get into our earth and our water and into our bodies then, right? So again, soapbox, but people go, oh, you're a fearmonger. And I'm like, I should have been fearmongering like this 25 years ago. Like the only thing wrong with my fearmongering is it's too late. That's what I think.
I'm sure you have a lot more healthy years in you. So I look forward to further fear mongering, and I look forward to greater success with SAPPHO New Paradigm, your clean makeup line, which for the viewing and listening audience, we're going to put mysappho.com and JoAnn's other links in the description box. So again, I appreciate your time, your many stories, and your mission in terms of making the world a more beautiful place and raising awareness for the importance of transparency in our products and in our makeup as well. So again, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today, JoAnn.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate being here.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the You Are Beautiful podcast with Jae Kim, MD. For further information about JoAnn Fowler and SAPPHO New Paradigm, her clean makeup brand, please see the description box below. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback, so please send any inquiries and comments to podcast.youarebeautiful@gmail.com. Until next time, remember our 3 core truths. You are beautiful, you are unique, and you are worth it. Take care, everyone.